Howdy y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's Casey or Scene, and today I want to have a little discussion video about Palias Endgame, what there is currently, and my thoughts on, stuff about it. So, if you enjoy Palia content and you're new here, hi, I make Palia content here regularly here on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And give this video a thumbs up, and if you like these type of discussional videos, please let me know down in the comments what other things you might want me to maybe do future discussional videos on. I love giving my input and my thoughts and opinions. As I said, this is purely more of a opinion-ish video, so yeah. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into things. And I first want to talk about more of like a single player aspect of the game, and because it's like I want daily quests in the game. Like, don't get me wrong, like I know we've got our daily choppa pile and the daily rummage pile, and the going to Zeki and buying a piece of item to get a daily Zeki coin. We do have a couple of dailies in the game, but what if you had there were actual profession daily quests, from all of the guild trainers, for instance, like we have weekly accomplishments for bug catching, where you have to catch so many bugs with a friend. But what if also you could go to Ani every day if you wanted to, and he would give you a daily quest that you could go do. For instance, if you went to him today, he might say, oh, catch me 5 common butterflies, and you go catch him 5 common butterflies. And then tomorrow you could go to him and he'll be like, oh, well, I want 1 princess ladybug, stuff like that, where it would change up the daily quest you would do, the different things that you would need every day. Feel like it would give people a reason to log in every day. It would give solo players a chance to do a little more stuff without, doing, more group things all the time. It would allow people just to do, things a bit more at their pace. And those quests I feel like would also reward, guild coins, maybe 2 to 5 coins. I don't want to, just throw coins out there willy-nilly, but I do want to make it, worth people as well. Maybe give them 10 gold and 2 guild coins or something, because if you're doing it every day, that's gonna add up real quick, and there could be ones for every profession. So if you want to, get to a particular decoration real quick, or you're farming more bug lures, or whatever. I think daily quests would be a great way to add content into the game where we already have everything established. It's just merely, writing code and putting it in, which I know is a lot of work, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's all really easy just to input, but it's not like you have to create, new zones or new bugs or new things for it. It's already it's existing, you just gotta put them together, So daily quests are something I would really like to see inputted into the game, personally. Okay, so the next part I want to get into is talking about the different sorts of in-game options for different professions that's already in the game, okay? And specifically, that's me talking about furniture making, foraging, and cooking. Starting out with furniture making, legitimately, the end game of furniture making is making you a really nice house and a really nice plot that you can show off on the bulletin board. I feel like that's the whole reason why you're furniture crafting or, carpentry, whatever you want to call it. I feel like that's the end game anyways, is to have really good lots to show off and have people come see them and give you lots of votes, I do feel like furniture making, ain't much more you can do with it unless they gave it an overhaul and treated it kind of like cooking where there's different steps to making it. But, which would be way too much of a hassle with the way they have everything inputted. So, that's what I'm saying. For furniture making, I'm completely satisfied with it. And as far as like foraging goes, like I've thought of maybe like doing some sort of like inputting scavenger hunts things, but I feel like that too much just falls under daily quests. And right now there are people who have what's called flow tree parties, where they'll grow a bunch of flow trees and then have people come over to their lot, and you give them editor or however you want to arrange it, but people get to cut down all the flow trees and then everybody gets all the wood. It's a big group event. A lot of times there are anywhere from 50 to 200 trees from groups I've seen posted. I know I've personally started doing them on my stream every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/kfiercene, if you're ever interested in, joining up. But yeah, and I personally, we actually did our first one last week as like a little test run from it, and I think we only did like 54 trees, and it was a lot of fun. It was actually a really quick event, but I know once I get more trees and more people, it'll be a much more bigger, funner event. But yeah, and so I feel like as far as like foraging goes, like just having a giant massive grove of flow trees and just going in as a group to cut them down, that's pretty much as like Endgame, I feel like, as you can get as far as like group content goes. Now my big thing I will say is, if we get like a new level of flow tree in the Elder Woods, which I feel like we will, I don't want them to be as common as flow trees are in Bahari. Like, I feel like everybody, now and granted, this game's been out for a year, basically, in open beta. So a lot of people's had a year to grind these resources. So everybody's got a ton of flow trees and flow seeds. But I feel like you can make them a bit harder to get, maybe, and they're not as common, and maybe less of them. I do want it to be a bit rarer of a resource, but I wouldn't mind having the expansion to greater flow trees or whatever they are for other groves within the future. But that's just thinking about future that I don't even know what they're doing for the Elder Woods yet, That's just me just going ahead and throwing that idea out. Now, if they do it, that's kind of my wish for it. But yeah, I definitely feel like groves are, like grove parties are already a thing. And on that similar note, so are cooking parties. Cooking parties are such big events where, in which I know we do typically cake parties every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/kfiercene. And I know we've been having a lot of fun with it. Everybody seems to really enjoy it, coming there, making 50 to 100 cakes, And there are so many other types of cooking parties, too. We're just doing cakes right now because they're easy. But, and that's something I'm very interested in is I really enjoy the cake parties, and that's what really got me started on this like type of thinking, because it's like I love doing cake parties and I wanted to do more things other than cake parties, and that's where I'd realized, oh, I can do grove parties, and I've started doing those now, and then that's what really got me thinking of what other professions, what other kind of group party events can we do with the other professions? Okay, so brings me into my next part, which is stuff that's not added into the game and stuff I've been thinking about. So, we've already covered cooking and furniture making and foraging. So I feel like the next one on the list I'm going to discuss is actually mining, and I'm only going to touch it really quickly because, to be honest, I can't honestly think of a really big like group of mining event, unless there was like a secret cave that only opens up every once in a while and you guys can go in there, or maybe it's a hunt for a rare diamond or something where you have it a temporarily available event or something, I don't know, or a gold rush. But I don't really see much as far as like mining goes to have a big event for it or like a group thing. Most group things people do with it is just form mining parties and go hunt pallium. So can't really think of much on that. But bug catching and fishing I have thought quite a bit of, okay? Now I'm going to I'm going to start off with saying with fishing, bug catching has bug lures, which I really like. Fishing, I wish they had something similar to that, but obviously, you can just cast the line in the water, so what are you talking about? I would like some sort of like fish food or maybe fish bait where you could summon a bigger starred pool, and obviously it would cost materials. And you would be able to, anybody around you could fish in that pool, and like the next 10 fish maybe has a 50% chance to be starred fish, or has a slightly higher chance to maybe be rarer fish. I don't know. I definitely would like something like that. And that would be my equivalent to like the bug lure for fishing. But going on with the idea of fishing and bug catching, I really want there to be fishing and bug catching tournaments, because I've played Animal Crossing, I've done the fishing tourney and the bug catching tourneys, and I love them. And I know earlier this year, I don't know how many of y'all was playing earlier this year, but they did a thing that they called the Insectapalooza, where basically they were like, hey, catch this many bugs and you will get this plushie for free. And it was like and it wasn't like each in a person. It was like everybody playing the game all together had to catch like 25 million bugs or something. And it was like such a fun time because they had just released the bug plushies, I think, that patch. And this event went on for like a month. And it was like every like nighttime on the server, like people were always popping lures, people were hollering it out, everybody was gathering up, people were having so much fun in groups. And it was such a good time. And basically what I would suggest is in winter time, like it would happen like 4 times throughout the real life year. And it would be maybe like a 2-week long event. After we do fishing in the winter time and summertime, and then we would do bug catching in the spring and fall, for like a spring and fall bug catching tournament and a winter and summer fishing tourney. That way it alternates it and spreads it out and be like a 2-week long event where you'd maybe have to catch so many of a particular kind of fish or a particular location of fish or just who can catch the most fish, and once you catch so many fish or whatever the fishing requirement or bug catching requirement is, you would get points or total of fish, and you would be able to earn those holiday rewards. You could have like particular like bug catching or fishing decorations, like you could get like a little decorating fishing pole or a tackle box or stuff like that, or you could find cool like bug catching decorations that they could add in, and you could just like go, your goal would be to go up through. And what I think would be cool is be able to see how you rank within your community. Because communities right now are not really used. There's not really much of a use for them. So I think a good way to add a bit of use and give a bit more of a meaning to people being in a community is adding events where, you can like see how well you're doing against everybody else in your community, and even then, because I don't want people to cheat, although I think it's much harder to do the botting for fishing and bug catching, but I think it would be fine to even have like a community, ranking to see how many you catch as a community compared to other communities. I think even that would be fun. It would, obviously it wouldn't give, that many extra rewards or anything. I think it would be more for bragging rights right now. You know, and obviously that would just reward people who played more. But, you know, being capped at 25 in a community, you know, everybody's pretty much on the same playing field. But I definitely think I want bug catching tournaments and fishing tournaments added into the game. I think that would add such a good, fun in-game for people and keep people interested in the professions and keep them active throughout the year. And just gives you more fun stuff to do, right? Now going into the last two professions we have in the game. First I'm going to start off with gardening. So I have this idea for gardening, and I believe it would be really fun to happen, like obviously in like the spring. It would happen like spring, summer, and then like summer, fall era, you know, somewhere there where it wouldn't interrupt the other things. But essentially Badru would meet you at the front of your plot when you'd log in, and there would be like an extra garden plot put, like a big square put at the very front of your lot, not in your decoratable square area. And Badru would give you giant pumpkin or giant watermelon seeds. And basically, you would have to go weed, water, fertilize, whatever you want to do. But, you know, they would be able to map it out. But you would basically it would just be taking care of that, you know, seeing how big you can make a watermelon or how big you can grow a pumpkin. And it'd be like a, you know, like a 2-week long growing event or whatever. Or a week-long event, I don't know, whatever you wanted, whatever they felt like doing. Where you would just log in, you know, every in-game day to go take care of your big plant to see how big you can get it. And then at the end of the season, you know, when you'd go in to weigh it at the end of the event or whatever, depending on how big it weighs, depend on all of that seasons, you know, like rewards you would get or whatever. You know, and be able to earn rewards by doing, you know, getting a bigger pumpkin or a bigger watermelon or whatever. And I think it would be a fun, you know, and even with that, I think it would be fun to also, similar to the fishing and bug catching, where you can see how your size is comparing to everybody else in your community. I think that would just be really fun. You know, I mean, yeah, I could see where some people might find it toxic. Oh, mine's bigger than yours or whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're all here just to have fun in a casual little cozy game. But I think having, you know, events like that would be fun. And for gardening, like, that's the only thing I can really think of. And I think it would be a fun event. Maybe, like, you could have, like, one little square beside it that you can choose one companion plant. And you would have to figure out what buff you would want to give it, you know? So it would be a fun little idea of, you know, which plant would you plant with it? Do you want to not water it every day, or not weed it, or give it, you know, like a boost? You know, any rate. I think there could be some nuances to it, and I think, you know, that would be a fun way to celebrate a more in-game version of gardening and have like a fun gardening event, you know? Now, going into the last profession, hunting. This one is where things get a little tricky, because Palia is a no combat game, and to an extent, I want to keep it that way, you know? But parts of me also has an idea of what I would like out of a group hunting experience, okay? So hear me out. I'm going to try to explain this the best I can, okay? But essentially the way I see it is kind of like an instance Monster Hunter. To an extent, because we have archery in the game that is a form of combat. You know, me shooting a Cernuck, I feel like, is a form of combat. You know, it's not directly attacking me. I don't have a health bar. I don't have to worry about, you know, keeping myself alive. You know, that's not something that's, you know, within the possibility within Palia. And I do like that, and I do want to keep that feeling of it moving forward. But let's say there was a giant choppa, for instance, you know, and like you were in like you and three other friends go into an instance portal in Kilima, for instance, where you could maybe do this like once a week or maybe once a real life day. And there'd be a giant magic choppa in there that, like with similar choppas, would split and do its clone jujitsu, but would maybe like every like step they did have like a little like shockwave that would come out. And if you were hit by it per se, instead of taking damage like you would if you had a health bar, you would be like stunned for like 2 seconds, or you would be knocked back, you know. Obviously there would be cliffs to climb and ways to shoot, you know, and I think having a form of like taunt arrow, or like, you know, like a distracting shot arrow, to have like somebody to be like, you know, to shoot at the enemy, to the choppa, to make it chase after that person so that everybody else can get in proper positions. You know, it would require a lot of team coordination. But I feel like having like an easy, medium, and hard mode would then give people, you know, everybody a chance to get all the main rewards, and then slightly reward those who do have the better skill set or have the better luck to take on the harder, you know, difficulties. Do get slightly better and maybe different rewards. But, you know, and then each zone can have their own, you know, like giant magic animal to fight, you know, because it was like at first with the idea of the beasts of the elder woods, you know, that's what first gave me that idea before I actually started learning more about what little pieces of lore they've given us about it. My first idea was like, what if the beast of the elder woods was this like giant like scarlet Muujin that you had to fight, and like, you know, would like do like a howl beam that would maybe knock people back or something, you know, and it was like and you had to group up with your friends to take them down, you know. I think having some sort of dungeon would be fun, and I think doing it like that, and here would be the thing, because you're like, well, how would you win or lose? Well, obviously the animal has a health pool, but I feel like there would be a timer, and the animal would basically run, or you guys would be in this enclosed space, so to speak. And basically you would have, you know, let's say 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. And once the timer runs out, the animal escapes. Whether the choppa buries away, or the Muujin climbs up a tree you can't cut down, like a big tree right in the center, or, you know, the Sernuk just teleports away, whatever, you know. I feel like there could be a lot of potential in that, and as they add new animals into the game, would allow for new creative, you know, boss fights, so to speak. And yeah, so that would be what group hunting I would suggest, and kind of what I envision endgame hunting to be in Palia. And that's more of like my PvE going into, these are just the different professions, and how I see kind of like the end game of Palia, how I would want to see some of the end game of Palia going. Now, going into my last section, I put this kind of to the side because, like, I don't know how much people prefer it, but I have thought about doing like having like a PvP section, and I do think some sort of light PvP would be fun. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, it's called player versus player. Now, I'm not saying like, oh, you guys are gonna shoot arrows at each other. No. When I say PvP, I'm specifically thinking, for instance, hot pots, okay? So we have hot pot down there, but what if there was like, you could talk to Zeki and you could like queue up for a more competitive hot pot? You know, because, like, for instance, I'm taking this strictly from the idea of spades. Because spades, it's you and your partner, and you're there to beat the other team of two, and you guys are across from each other, you know? Like, what if there was, like, some sort of, like, competitive hot pot? Where it was like you and a friend would team up and they'd put you on opposite sides, and then you would be up against another team of two, and the whole point would be your team, one of your two players, to get hot pot first. You know, now obviously it's very RNG, but you know, some skill can go into it. You know, and I think it would be a lot of fun. Like, I want player versus player, like 2v2 hot pots. I know that sounds weird, but it's something I really want. But on the note of maybe like group styled PvP, I think it would be fun if Reth had like the cooking games, okay? Let's say there was just like a basic kitchen. It's your team of, you know, 4 against another team of 4, and you guys, obviously all the ingredients are provided for you. You don't have to make the ingredients. But it's just going through and how effectively to make, you know, you got to make different things, like maybe like Mujin Baharis, and you maybe have to make like 3 things of Mujin Bahari and a thing of mushroom soup, and you know, maybe a, you know, whatever other food you want to make. You know, you just got to make an order of a couple of different types of food, and it would be like your team versus another team, and it's whoever gets it done the first. You know, I think that would be a lot of fun. You know, it would be obviously an instance area where you would queue in and you guys would get teleported to like the instance area or whatever. But I think it would be really fun. And it's you know, and it's just something I've thought about. As far as like PvP goes, those are like the only 2 like really big PvP things I've really thought about. But either rate, I think those ideas are a lot of fun, and I wouldn't mind if they put it in. But if you stayed this long in the video, thank you so much for listening to me just kind of like talk about what I kind of want them to eventually put into the game, and just my thoughts on how maybe I see Endgame Palia looking like, you know, from time to time. So thank y'all for listening to me, and I guess I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day.